The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the Weymouth Community Access staff or its board of directors. WCA, in compliance with FCC regulations, is prohibited from exercising control over the content of independent member-produced public access programming.
Hi, and I have, who do I have?
Michael Marciello.
Doctor.
Dr. Michael Marciello. I'm a physician over at the South Shore Hospital Spine Center. I'm
Physiatrist?
A physiatrist, specializing in spine management, conservative spine management.
What is a physiatrist?
So a physiatrist is a person who looks at the whole person from a musculoskeletal, neurological, musculoskeletal capacity to look at their function. So people who can't function for one reason or another, they may have been injured in one way or hurt in another way, that they can't do the things they want to do, and we take that into account to try to get them back to their function, whether they have to treat their pain, whether they get them into an injection for their knee, treat their back, perhaps a person who needs surgery, but all the focus is to get them functional so they can actually participate in society.
And give us some background on you.
So I'm in practice now 20 years. I went through a Spalding rehab for my training, my residency. I worked at another center for about 15 years, 18 years, and came on the South Shore Hospital Spine Center last year, looking to kind of stay focused on spine management, musculoskeletal management for rehab. And
where are you? When you're not at South Shore Hospital, right?
I'm not at the hospital. I'm at the Two Pond Park building, which
where
is
Derby Street is.
In Derby Street, right off of Derby Street. It's one of the satellite buildings of the South Shore Hospital.
There's a lot of buildings back there.
There are. It's an industrial park back there.
And who do you see? Do you see all ages, men, women?
I for the most part see all ages. I don't see young children. I'll see an older teenager, 15, 16-year-old to high school student.
Why?
Who has had
Would they have it?
There's a lot of kids who play sports, a lot of kids who have back injuries or back problems. Whiplash, they're in cars and passengers in cars as well, so they may have neck and back injuries. I saw a child not too long ago who was in one of the backyard trampolines, bouncing around, and she fell awkwardly on her neck and hurt her neck, and so she was seen in the emergency room but sent to us to follow up with her neck pain.
Will that last her whole life?
No, not necessarily. Most kids bounce pretty well, so it would be more of a sprain injury that they do okay. We just have to kind of make sure we do our checks and balances and make sure that there isn't any concerns that we bring up things that would have to be followed more closely. But they do fairly well. Person who's in maybe a sport injury, classically a football or hockey injury, may have a little bit more, when they're high school, adult age, in the 17, 18, 19-year-old, that may have something that will last for a long time.
What can people do to avoid getting to you? Nothing personal. I mean, is it thin? Is it the genetics? What is it?
There's a lot of genetics involved. There's no question. It's certainly what a person does. There's risk-taking behavior, which they may put themselves out there a little bit. But someone have an incident that's, unprovoked, in a car, get in a car accident, playing sports for their enjoyment of sports and get hurt. But really, it's to stay physically fit, to stay flexible, just to think about things smartly in order to try to prevent injury.
I think it's great that you do what you do. I think physiatrists are, you're a doctor.
I'm a physician, correct.
Physician. And is that what you set out to do, or you didn't know?
I always had an interest in rehabilitation. So way back when I was a high school student, we had to do volunteer work for our high school. And I actually volunteered at Spalding Rehab way back when I was in high school. And then went on and took on EMT work in order to drive an ambulance to try to help people who were injured. But I always had an interest in rehabilitation, getting people back to function who've gotten hurt for one reason or another.
And is that why we have that ball there?
Absolutely.
You're a family man, 2 sons, but one in college, one graduated, or both in college?
One graduated just recently in this past May, and one is in college now.
See, a lot of patience, doctor, to pay for college.
This is very true. It will be a long haul.
Yes, but worth it. Isn't that nice?
Absolutely.
I said to you, are they doctors? You said, well, one will be a doctor, a PhD, right?
My younger one is looking to get a PhD and wants to become a college professor, so he's very academic and looking to take on be an educator for other people.
And the other one is sports related too?
He's my sports guy. He's played a lot of sports. He played baseball, where he and I followed kind of interest in baseball. But he's in sport management and special interest in analytics of sports, both the business of analytics as well as the sports statistics of teams that need the data to try to prove or disprove what they may do for a business.
Can you imagine when that Theo Epstein was is a big believer in that?
Very much so. And the book came out years ago called Moneyball, and Moneyball looked at the business of sports and how it applied to baseball at the time, and organizations make judgment on this data they collect.
If I would tell people, viewers, see you, because do everything you can to avoid surgery. Try to do from the beginning what you can to make yourself stronger and healthier.
Correct. And we're always looking to try to see a person who even feels not so badly. I have a lot of people who come to see me and say, I don't know if I really should have come in today. I'm feeling pretty well. And I said, well, that's fine. What brought you here in the first place? Well, I had this back pain that was there. I had this neck pain that was bothering me. I said, well, this is the perfect time to come, because now we can look at you as you feel like you're so-called don't have problems, but we can look at and actually modify and make things better and look to try to prevent further injury.
My mother, I think I told you last time, a doctor to her was next to God. If you said jump, she'd say how high. She wouldn't ask you anything. That was what she thought was the best thing, and I agree with her. Mm-hmm. And is that how you got into what you were talking about today?
Yeah, so I was very interested in baseball, and so baseball's my sport.
I love it too. My father had no boys, and he slept me everywhere. I went to every baseball game. Ted Williams was playing then. I'm showing my age. We listened on the radio.
Wonderful.
Oh, it was nothing to go to a game in those days.
Wonderful. Yeah, so baseball's been my game, and I coached and played and coached my son and watched baseball in all different avenues. But then getting into the profession I've done, a physiatrist will look at function, as I've mentioned. But we also look at adaptability and how you actually can get back to work, or in this interest, back to sports, because again, what may seem like an impairment or disability, but here's competitive, adaptive sports, of which I saw in the newspaper was an article in the Boston Globe, and I grabbed a hold of it and called the organization. It was about 5 years ago, and I said, hey, look, what's all about this beep baseball? And it was a perfect fit. So it's an adaptive sport for people who are visually impaired or blind. And they play competitive baseball in spite of their impairment.
How? They're blind, right? They can't see.
Correct. So it's a way in which the ball, as I brought to show you in a second, is a 16-inch round big softball. It's got a beeping sound as a device inside that will kind of send off a sound wave. And the teams are played such like a baseball game. There's 6 innings. 3 outs, change sides, and 1 inning after another.
Is everybody just blind, or are there other things?
They can have other problems, but the main criteria in order to be a player is you have to have visual impairment or blind. To make it all equal, when they're actually playing, everyone wears a blindfold. So blindfold will then make it equal, that no one has any visual input at all for the team, or for their. They can't have a competitive edge. So you have to have the blindfold to make everyone equal.
And they walk up to the plate?
So we bring them up to the plate. The way in which the teams and the game plays is you have to have assistance by sighted coaches. So on the offensive side, your coaches are on your own team. So like I would play when I was back with my son growing up, you would toss the ball, so they would try to hit it. And so you make them hit it by you tossing it to where they may swing. So our coaches are throwing the ball to our players in a way in which we learn. I'm one of the hitting coaches, actually. So we actually work with each of one of our players, know where their swings are, where their strengths are, and we toss the ball essentially to where they're going to hit it.
They can hear it?
So they don't swing to hear the sound. So we do it from a sequence. We say ready, set, pitch, and that aspects of they know when the cadence is coming to actually swing when they're about to hear the word pitch. And so they're starting to swing. Our pitcher is throwing it to actually have them strike the ball. When the ball goes out in the field, Now the defensive side has a coach on their side that is also sighted. So that coach is allowed to yell out a number, most corresponding to the players in the field. We have 2 coaches, some teams have 1. And then once they're allowed to yell at one number, there's no other speech involved. Now the players on the receiving end, the defensive side, know that their ball's coming towards them, and they have a series of ways in which they can try to defend it. And there's a diving on the ground, they'll listen to the sound. They're the one that's really kind of being concentrating on the sound. And then they try to knock it down, scramble to the ground to pick up the ball before the batter who hit the ball gets to first base or third base. Now I say first base or third base because the way in which the adaptive hitter plays is they swing a bat, they hit the ball, and they, as a volunteer person behind the batter's box, that once the ball is struck, or just before the ball is struck, they turn on a beacon. It's a buzzing base, stands about 4 feet tall, and it's 100 feet away. The player then has to run to that base, either down the first base line or the third base line, and touch the base before the person in the field picks up the ball. If they touch the base before the person picks up the ball, it's a run, and the next batter gets up. If they touch the base after the ball is picked up, it's 1 out for the other team. And 3 outs, and you switch sides. So.
They have a seeing eye dog, or they have a cane? Or
so it means many of our players will have a cane, or they all have canes for the most part to adapt in society. Some of our players do have seeing eye dogs, but in the world of which they're playing, it's all by sequence, all by repetition, it's all by coaching. So they swing, they listen to the sound, and we work on their ability to take off of the right few steps to get in the right path. We call it the line. If you get down the line in a right, you save steps by going directly at the base. And they're going to listen to the sound of the base and run as hard as they can to it. It's all by support. It's all by actually recognition that they're trusting the fields are in good shape, and we do our best to keep the safety up to speed. If
how old are they? Are they a certain age?
They have to be 18 years of age or older. They can be as old as they possibly can, but most people playing are younger. But we have many a player that's in their 40s, and a couple teams have some people in their 50s and 60s.
So there's a lot of teams?
There's many teams. There's about 30 teams across the country. We have an annual World Series for the National Beep Ball Association. It's a competitive sport across the country as well as international. So we have a World Series at the end of July.
Will you have it? Is your team in it?
We are in it. We actually do quite well. We became 2nd in the nation a couple years ago. We were 5th in the nation last year. And we do have a competitive team that we do play quite well.
Do you play in the same place all the time?
We travel. So we have a so-called a Beast of the East tournaments, which is the Northeast tournament. There's a team from New York, a couple teams from New Jersey, a team Rochester, New York, and ourselves in Philadelphia. So the 6 teams that play in the Northeast. So we kind of shift off year to year. We play two games or 2 tournaments in at home or two away. We'll round off of those 6 teams, and then the World Series, it varies throughout the years where it's being held.
Have you gone? Where is it?
I have. Last year we were in West Palm Beach, Florida. This
Lovely.
year we're in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
How they have to practice, like the Red Sox have, they all go to spring training.
Correct.
So do you?
We do. We start practicing indoors about in February, March time. We get out to the outside in a field in April or May, and now we practice twice a week. Our team practices on Wednesday evenings and Sundays.
Are you amazed? I mean, it makes sense, but we look at handicapped. I told you my daughter is totally deaf, and now
Correct.
she's older, and we look at people differently. We think, how could they do this or that?
Right.
Are they nervous? Are they?
It's there's no question. We try to encourage. We're always looking for players. We're always looking for coaches.
How would they apply? How would they?
Our organization is operated by the Association of Blind Citizens. It's an organization that kind of runs our team. Our team is called the Boston Renegades, and we, as a team, do community service. We will go to the Perkins School for the Blind, the Carroll Center of the Blind. We look to market our team there and have people who are looking to get involved because they're visually impaired, but they want to participate in life. And so we'll have events. We just had an event up in Tewksbury. The fire department had a fundraiser for us where we played against some of the firefighters before the 4th of July ceremonies. It was quite nice. So people see us around in different events.
So, okay, here's the pitcher, first, second, third, outfield. You have all the positions?
Correct. So we have 6 players for the most part. There's not a full 9 players as a standard baseball team. So there's 6 players out in the field. So essentially you have 2 infielders and 4 outfielders. We particularly play 2 infielders and 3 outfielders, where we have 1 person who kind of shifts from side to side. We call our rover. So different defensive teams will shift a bit, but there's 6 teams, 6 players in each team.
So the ball has a beeping noise to it.
Yep.
And so the pitcher, he's blind, but he's throwing the.
So the pitcher and the catcher on the team are sighted. They have sight. So
they have sight.
yes. So we're coaches that will be sighted in order to be able to, or else the game wouldn't be able to play.
Yes.
So the coaches are working on making sure that the batter is hitting the ball. And then many is a strikeout that occurs, of course, but there are many times, because the coaches are sighted, we're assisting the batter to hit it. It would be no game if there wouldn't be a ball in play.
So they hit it.
Mm-hmm. So they hit it and they get it out in the field, and then again, it's the coaches on the defensive side who have sight that identify where that ball's going to tell the players, hey, it's coming towards you, keep an ear out. And so there's a sequence of which are defensive skills to have the players dive to the ground, block the ball, then listen for it and chase it down.
Not seeing, they're running.
They're running. There's a lot of safety net issues. We'll have one player call to another player that it's gone beyond me. They heard it go past them, because we don't want the player to run backwards and possibly collide with one of our other players. So there's a lot of issues and concerns about the safety of it, but without question, there's ways and skills to do that. And the players, learn their skills and they know their position. They like anything else, as you mentioned, we have to practice, and they practice, and we go over these drills over and over and over again, so we try to prevent injury. Unfortunately, injuries do occur, but they're not many.
Bad?
There's collisions and people get hurt. We had one player.
Well, you're a doctor.
I'm the team physician, so I work as the team physician, which is an added bonus to our team. Most teams don't have a physician on staff, but I love the game. That's why I became part of it. But I do act as the physician as well. So I'll strap them up, and I'll get their bumps and bruises all strapped up. Sprained ankles, I'll strap them up. I'll injure their shoulder, I'll wrap them up and just, tape them up so we can still play. So we have a little competitive edge that I can get someone back out in the field perhaps a little quicker.
There's no cane involved. No, the dogs are on if they're just them.
Exactly. So we have running drills, and they're playing without their assistive devices in order to get them, to play by. And
running drills as they run around.
Correct. So we'll have a lot of a lot of auditory, of course. So you're passing back information from player to player. You're calling out names. We're clapping, to give them sounds to run to, and done in a sequence of which that there's enough gap between players so they won't have collisions and things. And we're always having to keep the coaches. That's why we're always looking for coaches. We're looking for.
Are you always still looking for coaches?
We're always looking for coaches, and I think I gave your staff some website numbers that if people are interested.
Excellent.
So that way we're looking for people who are in medicine. We're looking for people who know baseball. We're looking for people who know physical fitness to keep people, again, going into the sport. Just think about why a person may be blind. There are people who are diabetics who lost their vision. We have a lot of people who have genetic disorders that lost their visions. Have a couple players who have family members that are blind because they got the genes of the passed down from parents. There's been injuries and terrible accidents of why they may have lost vision, and therefore these players have different problems, and we're trying to keep them going. So as people get older, there's more injuries. As people get older, they're not as competitive, and we're looking for players always to keep the sport alive.
Nobody said life was fair.
That's true, very true. And our players, our coaches, first and foremost to say, you're here, you're out in the field, we're not taking it easy on you. We're going to work you hard, and we're going to, you want to play competitively, we're going to coach competitively.
So is it hard to get players too?
It is hard to get players because, again, you have to, as you brought up the question, aren't they nervous? And there are a lot of people who just don't want to bridge into that gap of going past their security of comfort.
Yes.
So they do have to trust us as coaches. They do have to trust wanting to be competitive and play. And you'll see actually a lot of players who have a lot of hesitation and a lot of realizing, as we as coaches that I've seen now, you know, the player doesn't really become a good player till a couple, 3 years later, because it takes that initial stage of being comfortable knowing that they can actually play, swinging your bat, etc.
Can't see. I mean, can you imagine?
Correct.
Running?
And when you talk to players, it just opens their heart about how they never thought they could play again. Some of the players had vision when they were younger. They were playing sports in high school and then started losing their vision and, you know, became depressed, became saddened because they couldn't play anymore, as I would too. And a lot of people, you know, you feel like you lost something. Now we've given it back to them, and they love it. They love the sport, and there's a lot of other adaptive sports. Of course, we look at the Paralympics and how, you know, the Olympics of the nation have sports teams that are adaptive to one way or another. Paraplegics playing basketball, etc. We see all these wonderful things.
But blind.
And here we're playing blind baseball.
So somebody makes these balls?
Someone makes these balls. They're constructed with original devices with an old.
Are they hard? I mean, they hurt.
They're very hard, and you get that off the back. If I can pull the plug, this is the sound of which they hear. So that beep goes off. So that is the indicator that the players out in the field have to be able to hear it.
It's loud.
It's
they
loud.
Do hear it.
What's interesting about the sport, as you think about going to a professional game or going to see a game, it's a lot of chatter, a lot of yelling, screaming. Go ahead and do. This game, you have to be quiet. So before the pitch is pitched, everyone has to be quiet. The entire stadium has to be quiet. If there's a plane flying overhead, a timeout is called because everyone has to hear, which is counterintuitive to what we've always, you know, done and played. Ball gets hit. Maybe a person makes the play, the game is out, or a person makes a nice play, then everybody cheers. Everyone congratulates the player for making a run or congratulates the player for making a good play. But that only occurs after the play is over because everything has to be quiet so they can hear. If an umpire decides that it's too noisy or not being, you know, the rules are not being followed for quietness.
There's an umpire.
There's an umpire that will call you know, get the game going. And for the World Series, we have 4 umpires. There's 3 umpires or 2 umpires watching the base.
They're hearing and they're
hearing. They're sighted.
Yeah.
So one is watching the first base and third base. So they're kind of identifying, you know, if the person truly touches the base. And another umpire is out in the field, making sure exactly when the person picks up the ball. When a person secures the ball in the field, they just have to lift it off the ground and secure the ball, and that's considered in possession to call an out. And then there's the umpires deciding which was first, the ball coming up secured or the player touching the base.
Do they throw it? They don't throw.
No, there's no throwing.
No throwing.
So there's no second base. There's no, again, because you can't go to the next base.
Yes.
It's a 1 play, 1 out, or 1 play, 1 run. And so once the...
What could the game be? Is it 1-0 or it's just like the regular?
Like regular. So again, the only exception to the rule is there's a 12-run rule. So if you're winning a team by 12 runs,
I would think.
There are definitely better teams than others, and you could be there all day long. So the idea would be is if there's 12 runs more than the other team, that other team has a chance to then come back. So they actually stay at the plate and stay at the batting issues until either the 6 outs, I mean the 6 innings are over, or they tie the game and they make the runs back, and then you continue to play. So if you don't want to have 50 runs to 0, it would be unfair. It would be really a terrible game to watch. But again, 12 runs difference. There is this 12-run rule of which the team that is down stays at the plate and either comes back or eventually the game is over. Just to make the game move a little bit faster as well. Do you break for innings and for water, or? We do. We try to keep the teams of the players hydrated. We're eating and we're drinking throughout the game. Most tournaments are done on a Saturday and they're held throughout the entire day. So we typically play 3 games during that day. Again, 6 innings are over. We'll have a break for an hour or so before the next game plays. In a World Series, it's a full week schedule. We start on a Tuesday, and you play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, oftentimes for play-in rounds. The better teams and the teams that haven't lost play the winner's bracket, and they go towards the end of the week. and the World Series ends on a Saturday, which is the championship game.
And you've been to a World, has your team won?
We have. We went to the championship round a couple years ago. We lost in the championship, but we did make it to the championship round.
How do they take wins and losses, like anybody?
Any team, you win, you're down, you're up, you lose, you're down. It's exciting, it's emotional.
How do they get there? Somebody has to take them.
So we all assist them. So the coaches will be their guides. We get them through lunch, dinner. We get them to the bathroom. We get them to the hotels. We get them through the restaurants. We take care of it all from the beginning of the day to the end of the day.
So it's a commitment when you're asking people to.
It is.
And you need people.
And we need people, and people can be involved in many different ways, between helping out our website, helping players just get to and from they run to first base. We need players just to walk them back to the dugout. We need players to coach. We need people on the field that we can get. We're volunteer coaches, so we're not able to make every practice because we have our own lives. But we need a lot of coaches then to assist.
And do you get it? Are there people coming out?
There are. There are not many, but we do get some year after year.
Because it's a commitment.
It's a commitment, and we got to find people who can do it.
And you're a doctor. Doctors are usually
I'm
so
busy, but it's something that I've enjoyed and something that I've felt strongly enough to continue to do. Because
how long have you been doing it?
I've been this for 5 years now.
That's a big commitment.
Yeah, it's fun.
They're just telling me we have about 3 minutes.
Okay.
It's amazing. Do you have people come to the stands and watch?
We do, absolutely. So we have our tournament. So the best way to try to find out and follow us is Facebook, on Boston Renegades Facebook.
That's what it's called.
The Boston Renegades is our baseball team. If you look up the Association of Blind Citizens, Boston Renegades, you often find our website and find out where we play. Our next tournament is actually this coming weekend in Philadelphia, so people aren't going to be traveling to Philadelphia, but we can watch it on Streamline.
Will you go to Philadelphia?
I'm not going to Philadelphia this year. I just would come back from our Rochester tournament. I'm not going to be able to make the Philadelphia tournament, but I will make the World Series that we leave at the end of July.
And we're saying volunteers, not paid.
Correct, correct. Our team, we're looking for fundraisers, always looking for people for donations that help fund our team for travel. Coaches don't have to pay to travel to our World Series, but because we need our players to get funding for themselves, but also to support the team.
God, money. All we need is money.
We always need little donations. It's always wonderful. There's a place to donate on our website. And
they know it. They must be showing it. They have all the information.
Absolutely. So you can click on the donate site. You can get on the webpage and donate if you're interested. And certainly we always love to come out and teach people about the game. And if our next tournament back home will probably be a year from now, but you can watch us on Facebook. You can watch us on the National Beep Ball Association. NBBA is the national title, and it always runs the games that are being played across the country.
It is fascinating when you said that to me before, we were interviewing before.
Right, correct.
It is, and what a wonderful commitment and what a wonderful person you are, and you're a physician, so you can put a Band-Aid on something.
I put a lot of Band-Aids on a lot of bumps and bruises.
Does that make them timid, or I shouldn't say make them, but when you fall and hurt yourself, it's tough to get up and keep going. It
is tough to get up, but again, they're competitive players. There are some that just...
they're like us, they just can't see.
Exactly, they just can't see, and now I'm making the judgment, should they play or not. So I'm making the judgment, I'm sorry, I'm keeping you out, you can't play for next week either, right? Yeah, I'm going to keep you out of practice, because we're trying to make them so they can play in the games. So I have a running list, the coach keeps a running list of our players on injured reserve, and I'm the one where we have a nurse on staff, and we have a personal trainer and physical therapist person that helps do our coordination and conditioning. So we definitely need people. So we call it our medical staff, but ultimately I'm making decisions to see if they should be playing this week or not.
Oh, I hope you get a lot of people who will come forward.
That'd be wonderful.
I think it's wonderful because I can't hear, I can't see, nothing wrong with me. I'm just like you.
Correct.
Life just threw me a curve.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it must be exciting.
It's very exciting. It's very satisfying. It's actually it helps so many people to recognize that they can do things, whether their impairment wasn't vision and it's just some other people who lost a limb, people who are injured in some ways.
Look at these kids from Iraq. They're doing everything.
Absolutely, and that's the whole thing, is that they just need to be able to find their organization, find their group, and adapt to it.
If we can get past disability. Anyway, we have to wrap it up. I thank you so much.
My
I know
pleasure.
you're busy. I thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye for now.